Blake.
Blaze is goofy. Blaze is kind of cute, but like, who is Blaze really appealing to? Other girls, like other girls that like this kind of kicky stuff. Um, is it appealing to the average football viewer? No, but also, like, does it really matter? Like, who really care? Like, do you really think this is not an issue? This is a non-issue that is a current we're going to own the libs moment. It's another we're going
Mm.
to own the libs tidbit. But it's also just a non-issue. And then I'll stop in a second. But I think one reason is because these guys are clearly gay. Okay, they're gay. Fine, whatever. And I mean, there are very few Americans that are really upset about that. Like, most
Mm.
people are like, so what?
Yeah.
So
Sorry, I interrupted.
no, no, no.
Everything you're saying makes sense. I was just thinking about this. I should probably show my work to a degree. There are some conservative influencers who expressed revulsion or dislike, but it's all confounded by how a lot of the big accounts right now on X, this is a whole other side issue. There's payment for engagement. There are accounts that are run by people outside the United States purporting to be right wing influencers. There are some people on the right who don't like this, but I don't think it's at the level of a Bud Light. I don't think it's at
No,
that level of
no.
importance. But there is something funny about this. There are layers to this. I think, from my perspective, some of what's happening is that this has declined in importance to people. Dance teams, cheer squads. The Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders are the highest status version that Sarah Hepola has covered, but this has all become noise. And to be blunt and frank about it, I think it's become noise because America has gotten more pornified. The world has gotten more pornified. So it used to be in the 1970s, there were these cheerleaders, and that was just auga. That was just insane for people to see in their living rooms or when they were at the game. But now they have access to so much stuff
Yeah.
that this sort of, I don't want to call it soft sex work, Nancy, because I
I
know
Sarah got
people,
very upset with that when you said that.
yeah, because people get very defensive and say this is athletics and they take it seriously and everything else. But it was that to a degree. I think sexy nursemaids is something that Sarah said in the selling of this. But then that became less of a thing that men paid attention to. But it was sort of this residue of what we had. And now this has actually been happening for years until this controversy has popped up. And I think it happened for years under the radar because nobody's paying attention. The horniest football fan at the game is looking at their phone, placing a bet, or doing something else. Maybe looking at porn on their phone, frankly. They're not looking at the end zone or the sideline and going, oh my God, there's a man there. That's not what's happening.
Well, I mean, remember the great canceled too soon HBO series Winning Time about the
Uh-huh.
Lakers and how the Lakers girls just like boom, like
Yeah.
they got out there and all of a sudden the basketball, which was already great, was like, oh, and we get this at halftime. But you're right, we've been seeing this now for 4 or 5 decades, and it's like there it is. It's just like another thing to have. And I mean, they're not even like we talk a little bit. I used to go to a lot of Trailblazers games, and they've got the Blazer girls, but mostly they're doing different things. They're like
Mm.
shooting t-shirts, or they're having kids trying to shoot a basket. It's just sort of window dressing. And again, I just think it's another little tidbit for people to fight over. We've had for the past 3 weeks a lot of these things like, look what they tried to take from us. And it's like
Mhm.
50 sorority girls and they all look exactly the same and they're all doing like backflips. And I'm like, yeah, actually nobody took that from you. And also they all look the same. And is this interesting? Like, this is like what we're going to fight for. It's okay, but it's not important.
I mean, right now it seems like sorority videos are what's big on social media. So if it was taken, it has been returned.
Yes,
Not that I would know anything about that.
it's
That
been
that's not
returned.
something that's not something I know. I mean, I like this topic for a variety of reasons. I think it's an ironic topic because it feels like a defense of sanctity and family when all of a sudden your cheer squad has been infiltrated by a gay man. But this is like, again, maybe Sarah would grimace at this. It's like violating the sanctity of a Hooters. This is
Yeah,
at
yeah,
some
yeah,
level a
yeah.
subtle display of something. And I think without anybody admitting to it, everybody is in this sort of business, this display, this kabuki the subtle messaging that the athletes get the women. That's part of what's on display. Somebody might disagree with me out there and say I'm overthinking it, that I'm trying to get too Freudian with all of it. But I think that's what this has been. And so when people don't like it and they don't like the sort of rhythm and flow being disrupted, Trace, do you have the Patriots reveal too? Because that one's also, I think that one's almost comedic in a way. Do we have that one? I want to show that one because I want to draw off that one. This is all we're doing today. Okay. Oh, dang it, Trace. You went right to the guy. Okay. No offense to him. Fabulous. He's fantastic. Let's stop that video. Let's stop that video. What I was hoping for in that instance, folks, and I apologize to all of you deeply, is that it's woman, 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 then that guy. And it almost feels like an SNL sketch. And I almost wish it was Chris Farley. I almost wish it was something more comedic because there is a comedy nobody's admitting to of the mean customer, the base customer being disappointed by this, but not for any sanctified reason, I guess, Nancy, is what I'm
I,
saying.
I think that in terms of like, if I were going to watch girl, 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 and then they threw a guy in there, I'd be like, oh, that's kind of fun, a little variety, right? But in terms of like, well, it's the soft sex and the football player getting the girl. Most people watching these professional sports, like they're never going to get within 100 yards, no pun intended, of being able to play on a playing field. But the idea that these guys are not only these great athletes, but they have proximity to these girls, that just sort of like amps up the temperature a little bit. And really, I think all that the viewer wants to see is a shot of their panties. That's it. Like, leg up in the air, shot. And then it's like, do I want to see a guy's package? Like, not really. Like, that's not why I came. So anyway, they're going to get it or they're not, or they don't have to watch that part or whatever.